Hey Argentina! Nice to see you guys again every Sunday. Woo! Aren't you excited? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm glad we covered a heavier topic last 2 weeks, and last week I answered a bunch of your questions. So this week we're gonna take it a little easier, not too heavy this time around. So if you could turn with me, the passage for today is Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19, verse 1 to 10. Luke chapter 19, 1 to 10. So as usual, if you could pause here and read the passage yourself, Luke chapter 19, 1 to 10. And then once you finish reading, then click play again. Alright, so here in this passage, it talks about a guy named Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus is a chief tax collector. So in the time of the Israelites who were under oppression, conquered by the Roman Empire at that time, this was like 2000, and then like a few years, 2,000 years roughly ago. Roman Empire had conquered most of Mesopotamia, most of Europe. It's like in the most powerful nation, and it had roads, artillery, technology, everything conquered. But the countries, however, or the nations that were conquered by the Roman Empire, on the other hand, however, hated that, obviously, right? You lost your freedom, you lost your currency, you lost your religion, the gods that you had worshipped. So the Israelites were people who were under that, that in order to survive in Roman rule, you would have to use Roman coins. You would have to go under the laws of Rome. So if you were a merchant or like a blacksmith or a carpenter, you would have to work under their laws. And so one of the things that the Roman Empire did to control the people was to tax the nation. Well, kind of like ours, right? We have to pay tax. Of course, hopefully in Argentina, and I hope Canada, is like when you pay the tax, that goes to good use. But in Roman Empire, the tax that you would pay is actually just go straight to the government, and it was a form of oppressing the nation. So what they would do is select certain individuals in every city that basically would be paid by the government. And they were the ones who were in charge of getting this tax, this money from all the locals and all the citizens of the nation that was they're being like ruled by, being ruled by the government, the Roman government, Roman soldiers, empire. And so these people who were chosen were basically betrayers of the Israelites. So they would see whoever was a tax collector as traitor, because you're basically collecting money for the conquerors that have conquered us and ruling us, and you are a traitor to your country, you're a traitor to your people, even though they lost a war, right? So like it's pretty bad. You're like hated on, you get spat on. If you're a tax collector and you're just walking around the street, people would kick you, would throw things at you. Like it was a horrible thing. On top of that, being a traitor to the country, you need to make a living. So say the government required, the empire required in Jerusalem, you would need to get like $50, for example, $50, or right, you were required to give get $50 per person to the empire. What you would do as a tax collector would be like, oh, you would charge maybe $70. And so that $20 per person would go to you, which is like a lot of money. But what often, because that's how you would get money, right? You would actually way overcharge. So if it was $50 that required the tax per person, you might even charge like 120, like 200. You'd make like 4 times the amount or more. Oh, my math's horrible, but you get it. Like you make so much money off your fellow people. Like, so imagine if all the Chinese people in Argentina, as a Chinese people, you worked to like basically betray the Chinese people in Argentina and actually make money off them so that you yourself could get rich. So everyone hated you. Everyone would be like, you are the scum of the earth. You are a betrayer. Like, we do never want to like hang out or be in dinner or even be seen with this person. you'd be like, never want to go out. Like, the only way you could was because the Roman soldiers would protect you because you're working for the Roman government. So being a tax collector was a really bad job, and how the only, like, the good side of it was you would be pretty rich, quite rich and wealthy. So Zacchaeus was the chief tax collector. So he was in charge of all the tax collectors in Jerusalem. And also, like, he basically was like a billionaire, like super rich. Yeah, but also like super hated. Like, everyone hated him. So this guy, he hears about Jesus coming, right? Oh, sorry, he not in Jerusalem. Sorry, my fault. Jericho, the city of Jericho, which was under Roman Empire. So he wanted to see Jesus. At this point, Jesus had been starting to get really well known. People knew that he healed people. People knew that he could get rid of demons. People knew that he was telling about a new kind of kingdom that God would bring to earth. Yeah, people were like, oh my gosh, like, he's this guy that does miracles. I want to know, like, so he was getting like celebrity status. So I don't know if you've heard of I'm sure you know what Big Bang is, or like, what was the other one? BTS, right? BTS is actually coming to Toronto, and so I know a bunch of friends who went to get like $300 tickets. So if you remember Joanna, she got $300 tickets to go see BTS in Toronto. So this is like, oh my goodness, like, celebrity, let's go see them. So Zacchaeus was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing this celebrity, like, I want to know who he is. So like, there's part one is some celebrity's coming, I want to know who he is. But remember, he's super rich, so like, it was almost like like, if there's someone who's wealthy and can afford it, you would almost demand that person. But he got out of his way to go see Jesus, so much out of his way that he climbed the sycamore tree. So for Jewish people, one, you are very proud. Like, for Jewish men especially, they're very proud, so they don't run. They don't climb trees. They walk slowly. If you see a Jewish man run, there's probably like something's wrong. Like, there's an emergency, like something is really wrong, and it's really weird to see Jewish men run. And so verse 4 talks about Zacchaeus actually runs ahead and climbs a tree, which is pretty undignified for a really wealthy man, right? You wouldn't climb a tree. You would get someone else to climb the tree for you, or like, it wouldn't be a normal thing. And he goes to see who Jesus is. So I think this shows a couple, not just he wants to see a celebrity, but he's been hearing about Jesus so much that this is someone who's different than someone who's not, like, it's not someone that he's used to seeing. Something about Jesus was different. Now, the interesting thing happens in their interaction. Verse 5 talks about when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up, because remember, Zacchaeus is on a tree. The sycamore tree is actually a really big tree. So if he were to climb it, he'd be probably quite up there. And usually in that situation, because he's with a crowd, like a lot of people, like if you imagine, like, again, if BTS was in Argentina, I am sure there's gonna be like floods. You're like, you want to see that like celebrity far down on the stage, and you're like this little person all the way back in like fourth floor of a stadium, like, it's hard to see, like, you're so far away. But Jesus looked up and saw this small, he was short, by the way, so not a really big guy, maybe like a fat, because he's wealthy. That's an assumption. But small guy looks up forward to the top and say, you, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. And it's like, whoa, what? Like, some huge celebrity, prophet, teacher noticed me on the tree? What is going on? And it's not that he doesn't finish there. Jesus says, I must stay at your house. In English, it has the word I must stay. I'm not sure how it's translated in Spanish, but it says, I must stay at your house today. So you imagine this big celebrity. Remember, this time Jesus was really, really like celebrity, like, until later when he basically says, you must follow me, right? Then people like started like, oh, I'm not too sure about that. But here at this point, people were still trying to get to know him. Zacchaeus was like, wow, me? You want to come to my place? Someone who wouldn't even want to be in contact with, you look me in the eye. I'm a nobody, like I'm a betrayer of my people. I am disgusting, and yet you want to look at me? You want to go to my house? Now, I'm sure you guys know this. It's like, if you invite someone over, they're a good friend, right? It's like they're more than a friend, they're family. So this was kind of like Jesus's like wants Zacchaeus to be his family, his close one. It's you know, like even think of like VIP. Like I'm using a lot of like BTS analogy because it's so like so many concerts these days. But imagine if you have VIP tickets now, but not even just VIP tickets to BTS, but now you get to eat dinner with BTS at their house, right? It was like, what? Like, that's crazy. But now it's not even that. It's Jesus going, Zacchaeus, you betrayer of all people, I want to eat at your house, and you're gonna welcome me. It's not like Zacchaeus is going over to Jesus' house. Jesus is going over to his house. And then, I don't know about you, but when I think about my house, I'm like, right now, I'm still moving. Like, if you look, it's so messy. I'm like living on the couch. There's so much clutter, and I'm like, Jesus, I don't know if you come to my house. Like, it's so messy, but like, yeah, I'm so honored that you would come to my house. So likewise, immediately Zacchaeus was like, oh my gosh, like, sure, come, I'm gonna welcome you. He welcomed him. Now, at that same moment, all the people were still there. Remember, the crowds is not like this happened. It was just like, oh, that one moment, and then all the lights, and like just a spotlight on like Jesus and the spotlight on Zacchaeus. No, everyone was there. Now, oh my goodness, you can't imagine the amount of judging that just happened. Everyone was like, ew, you want to eat with Zacchaeus? Why would you, like, what? They were so much. He's going to a guest of a sinner. Verse 7 says he's going to a guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus said, look, I'm going to give half my possessions to the poor. If I cheated anybody, remember I just said, like, tax collectors, they would cheat, right? I will pay back 4 times the amount. What was going on here? Is it because Zacchaeus wanted everyone to like him? Like, to not be judged? And ask Jesus, like, oh, no, I'm not, like, you know, like this, oh, yeah, I'm good, I'm gonna pay back everybody. Or, like, what's going on? But actually, Jesus, when he replies to Zacchaeus, help us to understand what was going on. So Jesus said to him, verse 9, today salvation has come to this house because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek to save what was lost. No. Jesus says here, today salvation comes to this house. Zacchaeus had realized it's not that he had to prove, like, oh no, I'm not a sinner. I'm like, you know, no, he realized he was a sinner. He realized he actually did a lot of things wrong. He shouldn't have cheated people out of the taxes, right? Like, maybe like making a good little bit amount for his job is okay, but like cheating people like 4 times, 5 times the amount, maybe more actually, right? Like, who knows, 10 times the amount. That was wrong. And he did things that was displeasing before God. And second, here he actually, Zacchaeus demonstrates that, you know what, I want to change. I want to follow Jesus. I'm going to show that in giving 4 times the amount back. Yeah, maybe usually the tax collectors would cheat, you know, 2 times the amount, 3 times. But he wanted to go the extra way to pay back 4 times. He was going to change the way he lived. He was going to change what was master. Before, money was a master. It was like himself. But now he wanted to invite Jesus into his place to let him be in control. And Jesus finishes this passage. For the Son of Man came to seek to save what was lost. It's pretty crazy because the full fact that if you're gonna be a tax collector, right, as a profession, you're choosing that I'm not wrong. This is what I'm gonna do, and as cheating people, and that is right. Like you're deciding that's right. So the fact that Zacchaeus is saying like, man, I was wrong this whole time is pretty big deal. And I think it makes us think too, like, where is it in our lives that Jesus is not the master still, right? When we think and reflect about what happened here, Jesus saw us when we were lost, when we were that one in the crowd that had no purpose, like Zacchaeus. He was lost. He didn't have any friends. He was that desperate to go see who Jesus was, that if this was a healer, this man could perform miracles, maybe he could heal me, right? He was this desperate to climb a tree, to run, that no Jewish man would do, to hide in that tree to see who Jesus was. And Jesus saw him. If Jesus does the same for us, he sees us where we're at. We're in our desperation, in our lostness, in our brokenness, in our struggles of every day. He sees us. And what does he say? He would, like, if it was us, Muriel, come down out of that tree. Stop working so hard to find, like, your own way. Let me stay at your house. Let me into your life. Let Jesus into our lives. And our response, like Zacchaeus, is, yes, God, I am a sinner. I can't do it on my own. I screw up every day. I hurt people. I hurt myself. God, forgive me. And let me follow you, like Zacchaeus. What I have done wrong, let me make it up to people. Help me to be changed, and now that I have a new control, new master of my house. And I think a lot of times too, it works in a similar way with how we view church, how we see loving each other in our church. Like so much, like I think when I was thinking about like immediately verse 7, a lot of people just judge, right? No, if we are all sinners, if we are all like Zacchaeus, actually, who are we to judge each other in things that were wrong? Rather, we should help each other. When we see someone struggling with sin, we should help each other to get out of that, to be like, hey, yo, I see something, like, you shouldn't be doing that because I love you and I don't want you to keep falling in this, and I want you to help you get out of there, right? And so instead of judging, what we can do is help each other in coming out of our sins. And we need that. We need each other as a community. Jesus doesn't call just one disciple. He calls all of us. He calls everyone. Actually, when, like here, not in this passage specifically, but Jesus eats with sinners. He eats with tax collectors. He eats with prostitutes. All these people who are struggling so hard in finding themselves, and they knew that people judged them badly, that they were like the scum of the earth. They were sinners and sinners. And I'm saying this way, and also that in Jewish culture, people would judge these people who did these bad jobs, you could say, as sinners, quote unquote. But in the end of the day, right, Jesus says in verse 10, for Son of Man, which is he's referring to himself. Son of Man was a way to explain like his title that he called himself. Jesus came to seek, to save what was lost. And in the end of it all, we are all lost. So I pray today that as we go into our discussion, let's talk about it. Who are we lost? I mean, where are we in right now? Are we lost? Who is the sinners? And how can we not be lost? So I'm going to leave that with you, and let me know again, as usual, if you have any questions. I talked really fast and I gave you a lot of stuff. But in the end of the day, Jesus says, yeah, Jesus came to seek, to save what was lost. See you guys next week.